So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Lindsay Garty, and I am the Marketing and Operations Manager here at Partner Co Australia and New Zealand. And we are delighted to have the amazing Brett West join us today. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, but I think that you have been with us for over 28 years. How many exactly?
It's only been 27.
27 years. 27 years. That's crazy. Brett is the senior director of research here at Partner Co, and he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all of our products, in particular Tahitian noni juice. For years, we have known Brett as the Noni Man. I don't think you'll ever get rid of that title, Brett. We will always know you as the Noni Man. So I will pass over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be able to visit with you again. And hopefully what I share today is not too much of a repeat for some of you. If some of you it's new, great. Some of you it's a reminder, great also. But I'm going to talk about Tahitian noni juice. So I'm going to share my presentation here when I can get this laptop to respond appropriately. So there we go. All right. So I'm going to talk about Tahitian noni original and some of the benefits and the history and so forth. I suppose that I ought to give a little bit of a legal disclaimer. The things I will discuss are research and history, and we don't have any official claims from the Therapeutic Goods Administration. Okay, just clarify that. So this is for your educational purposes and your edification, and you can share this information with others too. Just as you all know, there's certain guidelines we follow, so just want to bring that up. But I'm talking about Tahitian noni original. It's been around a long time. I've been doing research on the noni plant for 27 years, and some of you may have heard this, but I'm going to just share it again. When I first heard about Tahitian noni juice, I thought a little bit of balderdash, because what it was explained to me by somebody that was kind of mixing some science things together. And she was not a scientist. It was actually my sister-in-law. And she was introducing it to my wife. And this is when I was finishing up a graduate program in pharmacology and toxicology at the University of Arizona in the United States. And I thought, well, I wasn't overly impressed because I didn't hear exactly the right stuff. But the opportunity through that connection came to do research. They were starting up a formal research and development department. And the founders that introduced this product to the world really wanted a deep dive into the science to really validate this. And I said, hey, that's what I was trained to do. I can do this. And if the answer is no, it doesn't do anything, then I'm going to move on. And I said, I'd do it 1 year. Well, it's been 27 years now. So that hopefully gives you an idea of the kinds of things we've found, or the legitimacy of this product. So I stuck with it for over the years, and have learned to have a much greater appreciation for noni. So now I'm going to lift a little graphic. Sorry to the Disney Corporation and Pixar and whoever else might be offended by me using their graphics here, but I just show a little picture here of Maui. For those of you who are familiar with the movie Moana, Maui is this demigod kind of hero. Think of him kind of like a Hercules. But there's a legend among the Pacific Islanders about Maui and noni. And Maui, at one of these legends, he was tried to go and steal the heart, which is kind of similar to the movie, but steal the heart of the goddess of death, because he wanted to help people that they could live forever. Well, the goddess of death woke up and killed Maui, according to this legend. Well, the people mourned, and they took him to a certain island where the priests there, the local priests, wrapped him in noni leaves and chanted, and then brought him back to life. So this hopefully gives you kind of an idea of what these people felt about noni and the power of noni among a tradition there. And I'll talk a little bit more about them bringing this across the Pacific to different islands, and how they selected the best noni as they went along, and kind of where we are today with Tahitian noni juice. Now, in the Pacific Islands, noni was believed to be helpful for at least 67 health conditions. That's according to the ethnobotanists that have done the research in this area. Ethnobotanists, of course, are botanists that are scientists. They go out and they find out how people used plants for their health. And this was published in 2005 in a scientific journal called Pacific Health Dialogue, kind of a regional one there, where they had done a survey looking at the many uses that people believed noni was good for. And so there's at least 67 health conditions. Now, noni, prior to the arrival of the Europeans, was known to be the most widely and commonly used medicinal plant. And this is a statement made in a book called Polynesian Herbal Medicine by Dr. Arthur Whistler. He's an ethnobotanist affiliated with the U.S. National Tropical Botanical Garden in Hawaii, and also on the faculty of the University of Hawaii. And he spent a lifetime amassing information on the medicinal uses of plants throughout the Pacific Islands among the Polynesian people. And now noni, this is going to be relevant later on at the end when I talk about some of the offerings we have with noni, but noni was used by itself for many things, as you saw in that previous slide, but it was also used combined with other plants and other traditional medicines to potentiate them or to increase their potency. So it was not only good by itself, but it was also useful in providing a synergistic boost, so to speak, to other plants and other medicines that they used. And that's relevant to what we have today, because we use noni in more than just tea noni original. And there's a reason for that. It fits with this traditional use of helping to potentiate the activity of these other therapeutic substances. Now, in our own laboratory research over the past 2.5 decades, we've discovered more than 100 potential health benefits in various types of tests that we have run, a lot of them in vitro testing, where we look at the impact on of noni or a noni, part of the noni plant or an extract from there, or one of the phytonutrients in noni that we've isolated directly from noni, where we tested it in many different tests to look at, see what it might be able to do for the body. So we've identified more than 100 of these over the years. We have submitted patents, United States patents, and then some international patents for a number of these benefits, but not all of 100. And there's still some of these we've published, and some of them we still got in our back pocket, and just waiting for the right time to bring them out. Now, there's been more than 180 million bottles of tea noni sold across the globe. This number is a year or so old, so I don't know what it is now. I know we're doing couple 100 million in sales, it seems, annually, or close to that, or something like that. I'm not sure exact number. So there's been millions of these sold. So I don't know if that's 190 by now. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's more than. So that's why I put in there, but a lot. So the reason I bring this up is people have questions if they're new to it. Is this safe? I want to help you understand that there is a lot of experience, human experience, with this product as being safe. We've also have the European Union approval as a safe novel food there. We went through an approval in China where it's been assessed for safety there as well, and other places where we've gone through these very thorough studies and tests and toxicity studies, and it is good for you. And there's a lot of experience with people using this product, and it's safe. And I'm going to talk about some things today, some health benefits, but there are more than I'm going to be talking about. And when you think about the number of bottles that have been sold around the world and the people's experience, it's hard to capture that all, but there's a lot of goodness that's been experienced from use of this product. Now with Partner Co, Partner Co officially launched just, not too terribly long ago, but there were companies that formed Partner Co, that were absorbed up and brought up under Partner Co. And those who were involved in the noni portion of this business, a lot of us are still around. And so that experience is still there. So I'm just give you a little timeline here. There's more than 232 total combined years of working with noni. That should actually be probably 10 more on there, because this slide I put together last year. So, but we have guys like Nari Manoy. He's been around almost from day one. He's involved with processing the noni fruit. And there's me. I started in 1997. And Te Amo, Um, these are the guys in Tahiti. He works with our harvesters. And so a lot of us, and we have Fumiyuki Asami in Japan. And I remember interviewing him for his job. And, he came in 2002. That was 22 years ago. And he's been part of our research program. And these others that you'll see afterwards, a lot of them have been working with noni for many years. So we have a lot of experience, a lot of understanding of this fruit, understanding of the benefits, understanding of how it should be made into a good product that is in Tahitian Noni Original as well. So I would say that the greatest expertise in the world is with Partner Co. when it comes to noni. As you can see here, these people here, and like I said, we've done a lot of research on this plant and on this fruit especially. Now, to add to that, to verify this further, so we know more about noni than anyone. And also, this is to answer the question when people ask me, I get occasionally, hey, there's a noni product available online that's a few dollars cheaper than Tahitian Noni Original. Why can't I buy that? Well, this is a buyer beware thing. So I did this. I got with my lab mate over here in the United States that we've done a lot of chemical analysis, phytochemical analysis of noni products over the years, Dr. Shishing Dang. And we bought a bunch of noni products online, such as from Amazon and eBay, these retailers, major retailers, some other sources, and brought them in and analyzed them. And we know what noni looks like. We know what phytonutrients should be in noni and which ones shouldn't be in noni. And we found that 73% of these powdered products, especially those in the capsules you buy, because people don't always like the flavor of noni. They want to buy a capsule and eat it, and sometimes it's cheaper. Well, there's a reason why it's cheaper, because it's not real noni. So 73% of them did not contain real noni fruit. They contained a fake noni that is largely being produced in India. And there's many reasons why they misidentify that. Some of it's traditional and some of it's just lack of understanding, but it's not real noni. It's a distant relative of noni, and it's not real noni. So it's missing some things. Like here, I mentioned this one compound, scopolamine, just to give you an idea, as one of the markers that we can say, hey, this is not the real noni. And why is that important? Well, remember that long tradition we have with noni over the generations and generations. And then we've also validated that with clinical trials with noni that is supposed to have certain phytonutrients in there that deliver the goods. And so we know this, and many companies that sell these products, they think they got a good handle on noni, and they'll sell it to you, and they'll take your money, and they'll sell it to you for a little under the value of what we're selling ours for, but you're not really buying noni. Well, you are not buying noni, absolutely not buying noni. And that even included some companies, surprisingly, that are based in Hawaii, and they should know better. And I don't know why they did this, but some of those companies, there's a couple in Hawaii that were, it was disappointing. So to see that they had that available to them, but we're still selling this stuff out of India. And I know it's not from Hawaii because I've been to Hawaii many times. I've harvested fruit from Hawaii. I've got family there. We know what noni looks like. We can analyze it. It's the stuff that was being sold was not real noni. And so again, almost 3/4 of what's available online is not real noni. So keep that in mind when people ask. Now, we have done some health, what we call quality of life or health surveys among consumers of noni juice, Tahitian noni juice specifically. And in the first one that was done was in Europe. Now, after we got approval as a novel food in Europe, and Tahitian noni juice started selling like crazy in Europe. And so we had these big meetings, and we would contact people. It was done through the University of Hamburg in Germany, their medical school. And we would gather information on how they felt it was improving their health, and then, collate that and analyze it, do the statistical analysis and so forth. And this one first study included over 1,000 people, 1,712. But we found that number one benefit was more energy. And that's not surprising at all. One of the traditional uses of noni was to improve stamina endurance, especially on long voyages. There's one reason why they took noni fruit with them when they crossed the ocean, going exploring new islands and long fishing trips and so forth. Was not only would they use it to plant in the next island they landed on, so they could have it available to them, but they would eat some of it as they went along the way to provide energy and endurance and help them out. So that was a big benefit. And then other things that are a better overall feeling. Not everything you can measure, not everything that you experience in health can be measured with a blood test or an x-ray or so forth. You have to sometimes ask people, or you should every time ask people, how are you feeling? People will be asked how they feel about, pain. If they're having a problem with a joint, and they'll give them a pain scale, the smiley face one or the 1 through 10. Those are the kinds of things that we'd ask in these surveys. But one was better overall feeling. Their health felt better. They had reduced pain, peripheral pain. That's what we call, joint pain, basically. Fewer infections. So that's an immune system benefit there. We're able to demonstrate that in a clinical trial. I will share with you a little bit about that approval we received in China relative to the immune system. They had slept better, fewer stomach problems, fewer allergies and asthma. That's another impact on the immune system and modulating it. Sometimes you want to improve certain parts of the immune system and then control, kind of maybe dampen down other parts of the immune system. The immune system's not just one thing that either is all up or all down. It's actually very complex, and sometimes it has sort of a tug of war type, activity. And so what we like to say about noni is that it modulates the immune system. So it's kind of boosting it where it needs to be boosted and helping dampen it down a little where it should be dampened down, where it might be overaction too much, resulting in some health problems. So now we did another study, this one in North America, in the United States specifically, and this was across people enrolled, 319 people enrolled from all across the states except for Hawaii and Alaska. It was the continental part of the US, and these people were previously not exposed to noni. They were not consumers of noni. They did not know noni juice. So they were pulled into the study. They had untreated chronic health conditions. They were not really health supplement users. Some of them were, but most of them weren't. We had them drink a half a glass of noni juice, Tisha Noni Original, for 90 days. And then we had them participate in a health status survey that was sent to that they responded to on 30 days after they started drinking Tisha Noni Original, 60 days, and then 90 days to track their progress to see how their health was responding to drinking a cup of noni juice every day. And then we gave them questions where we'd ask them, certain questions so they could respond, either strongly agree, somewhat agree, disagree, so forth. And that's how we were able to capture that data without making it too difficult for them. And we used that to assess how they were responding to this drinking this juice. It's something that's done in research a lot. I will talk about controlled clinical trials with placebos and so forth, but also you need to do these kind of studies as well to capture a broader range of health benefits that people are experiencing. And it's done for both efficacy and safety. So most people, 83%, said they felt better in general. And that's in agreement with the studies done in Europe and with traditional use, of course. 81% said they feel healthier than before using this product. So you'll see here, sometimes the questions are asked just slightly different. They're asking the same, we're trying to get the same information, but asked slightly different. There are many more questions than what I'm presenting here, but just to give you a sampling of what was asked. But if we ask, I feel better in general, or I feel healthier than before using this product, that sort of validates the question if you ask them at different times in the survey. And you can see if they're being consistent in their responses. And then they felt like they could bounce back more easily after workouts. Remember the traditional use of using noni on these long fishing voyages and so forth? That's right there. They didn't know about that. They didn't know that traditional use. So a majority, 76%, and more energy. When they exercise, they have more stamina. You see different ways of asking the same question, feeling I feel like I wake up ready to start my day. That means they've had better sleep. It's another way of asking how is your sleep, to assess how well they're sleeping. Again, matches the previous study in Europe and so forth. I feel like I'm stronger, I have less pain, fewer headaches, sleeping better at night, all these kinds of benefits here. So pretty broad range of just general improved health and energy and just feeling better in general. And so two different groups of people, two different areas, and these are separated by probably about close to 9 years apart. These studies were done, and very consistent responses, regardless of time and location and population involved. So in China, in mainland China, we had received approval after a lot of work with the government there, and a lot of testing and a lot of time and effort and money spent to get what's called a functional food claim. We were approved. Tishanong juice has this symbol, so I show you this little blue symbol there with some Chinese characters under it, and some people call it a blue hat symbol because they think it looks like a hat. But this functional food approval is for increased immune system function. And now this involved not only the safety testing we had to do before, but then also a lot of testing on the immune system benefits. And we had data before, but of course the government wanted us to use their labs, use their protocols. They wanted to see if what we were claiming was true and legitimate. And so we had to go through all these extra steps and extra research to demonstrate this. And then they accepted it. And at the time this approval was given to, there was some pressure to not, there was, without getting into all the politics of everything, there was some we were a foreign company, okay? And being a foreign and an American company, American-based company, we had to really demonstrate that, yes, this is a true effect, because there was some opposition from that political aspect as well, too. And so this is a very legitimate claim. Now, this immune system effect was also shown, I mentioned, in a clinical trial where we had people that were not sick, they were healthy, but we were able to show how this improved immune system function of the two main parts of the immune system by about 30%. So what I like to tell people is you don't need to be sick to benefit from Tishanong juice, Tishanong original. If you want to stay healthy, then drink this, because this will help keep your immune system functioning well. And that's the very claim that's approved here for this in China. Now, this immune system benefit has actually been demonstrated for noni in other species and by other researchers around the globe that have been interested in noni. And it's been demonstrated in cows and cattle, in horses, in goats and chickens, and even fish, believe it or not. I don't know how well you can get noni. I guess there was one study where they put it in some fish meal and gave it to fish. And so this effect, it goes across all the animal kingdom. So it's very, very reproducible benefit that is demonstrated very thoroughly. Some of the clinical trials that we've done with Tishanong original, I'll just give you some of the results here, or kind of the topics, is increased antioxidant status in heavy smokers. I'll talk a little bit about those a little more in detail, these smoker trials. But DNA protection and improved blood lipids and joint health of the neck and of the hip and knees, osteoarthritis as well. So the increased endurance in athletes. We've done this, a few studies with athletes. I mentioned the immune system and so forth and so forth. Improved mobility and pain in joints, meaning reduced pain in joints, and effects on blood glucose and so forth, and health and quality of life improvements. There's a lot. Now, I just want to point this out here, that some of these things that I pointed out here, if you would like to read yourself about these studies, get more detail, there is a scientific article that I published on this back in 2018. Now, we have had some human trials published since then. But this will give you a good idea of kind of the breadth of what has been studied for T. shannoni original. But you can go to the pubmed.gov. This is the website of the National Library of Medicine's Medline database, where they have a repository of all these medical research that's considered, from credible sources. And you go to pubmed.gov and you can type in noni juice, health benefits of noni juice, and Brett West, use my name or whatever, and you'll see this link here. And you select that and you get it'll lead you to a full copy of this paper. And you can download it and you can share it with your friends or family, whoever's interested in learning more about noni and the science, some of the substantiation behind it and the science. And you can go find this, and talks about many of these things that I'm talking about today. So that's a resource available to you. And it's been used, actually, I don't know, downloaded. I know that the number of downloads is 20-something thousand so far. Copies of it. A lot of the scientists that are interested in this area will cite this frequently as well. And so go use that, go find it. And when you're sharing with people how noni has helped you, they might find your story interesting. It might be compelling, but if you share this with them too, it adds some credibility to what you're saying. So instead of being a little bit of the loony neighbor or the crazy relative or whoever, you could say, hey, this is legitimate and here's the science to back it up. So go ahead and use that. Now, one of the things I talked about was the osteoarthritis, and just to give you a sample of some of these studies. This one was done at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and in collaboration with the medical school at Rockford, Illinois, part of the University of Illinois, and then a place called the Swedish American Hospital, which is also in Illinois. And this involved it was a 3-month study with 82 osteoarthritis patients. They had osteoarthritis of the hip and knee. We had them drink 90 milliliters of T. shannoni juice per day. Now you think about 90 milliliters is really not a lot to see this kind of benefit. It's really not a lot of to take in every day. And so the fact that we saw significant benefits, shows the power of noni and T. shannoni original. I'll explain what makes it unique a little bit later. But we saw improvement in pain and mobility and quality of life factors. And of course, in this study, we drew blood and did physicals and so forth, and showed a very large margin of safety that this was completely safe, which we know from the traditional uses as well. But we like to demonstrate it and validate it repeatedly as well when people have questions. And after what I showed you on, a lot of products being sold with fake noni, that these questions that people have on safety are legitimate, right? Because you never know what you're going to get sometimes when you buy things. But I'll tell you, if you buy it from Partner Co., we're checking. We're making sure it's the good stuff. How do you say in Australia? You say fair dinkum, right? Is that what it is? So the real McCoy, fair dinkum. Okay. Now in the at this University of Illinois College of Medicine, we had an opportunity to do work with some cancer researchers. There was one of them who was introduced to T. shannoni juice by a friend, and she had done some experiments with the experimental methods that she developed in previous research, cancer research. And we got wind of this, that she'd been doing this work, and talked to her, and eventually worked through where we funded some studies, clinical trials done at this university. And we actually spent about 6 years and over $700,000 in research on these studies. And the first one here was involved 280 people, and it was a double-blind, placebo-controlled 1-month trial. Now, what this involved was people who were smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, at least a pack of cigarettes, the 1920 cigarettes or more per day, heavy smokers. And the reason we went with this design is, well, for one, you can't give people carcinogens. That's not ethical, right? You just don't do that. That's uncalled for. But people who are smoking are doing it willingly. So we enrolled these smokers. And we wanted to see if noni could have an impact in that extreme set of conditions of heavy cigarette smoking every day. So these people continued to smoke, and then we gave them tisha noni juice or placebo. The placebo was one that I had designed. So I put everything in there except the noni, and then I mimicked the noni with a strong European cheese flavor to give it kind of that taste, that noni. And noni, one of the traditional names of noni was cheese fruit. Just to give you an idea, has some things in there that are kind of like these strong cheese flavors. So we created this placebo. I went to a local university, used their food science pilot plant. We blended it up and we bottled it up exactly as we had made in our regular production facilities, and we labeled everything so you couldn't tell which was the placebo, which was the real thing, except for me, who had the code for it. And then we gave them the code after the study was done and the statistics were completed. And then we broke the code, would tell them which group was placebo, which one was tisha noni juice. What we found, though, is in this one where we drew blood from them and measured free radical levels and then markers of downstream oxidative stress. And we found that as little as even 30 milliliters of tisha noni juice significantly lowered free radicals in their blood. Whereas the placebo, despite having these healthy fruit juices in there that are full of a lot of antioxidant phytonutrients, the placebo was not strong enough against this constant barrage of toxins and things from the tobacco smoke that was being inhaled every day in large quantities. So this was one of the first things we said, okay, something's going on here. It's really cool and different with noni. And we wanted to make sure we had a study also where we compare noni fruit to some other fruits, right? Because we assumed there was something special about noni. And how are we going to test it? Well, we're going to use other fruits to compare and see how it lines up. So we did another study, this one 203 people, same setup, except this time we isolated the white blood cells and measured the amount of DNA damage that was occurring in those white blood cells. Those are cells of the immune system. These white blood cells are immune system cells. And again, we saw that they're lowered this DNA damage by about half after 1 month. And this is while they continued to smoke heavily. Just keep that in mind, what the benefit would be if they'd stopped smoking or you weren't a smoker. And I've had people ask, well, I'm not a smoker, so how does this apply to me? I just simply tell them, do you live in a city? There's these things in the air, and maybe not as high concentration as cigarette smoke, but you're breathing it in. And right now in the Western United States, we got everything on fire. It'll be your turn in Australia in a few months, right? We just kind of trade off, right? We go from one continent to the next with the wildfires, and we're breathing this in. So a lot of people are breathing this in. The smoke in the air can kind of be tough too. But we saw that again, the placebo was not strong enough to have any impact on lowering DNA damage, but the tisha noni juice was. Now, this was a type of, I'm going to mention two types of DNA damage. This one was what we call aromatic DNA adducts. This is from the chemicals directly in the cigarette smoke, directly attacking the DNA. And then there's some kind of downstream events that occur that cause DNA damage. And that tisha noni juice also lowered those type significantly as well. Now, people who smoke heavily may have problems with cholesterol and triglyceride, and then something called C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein is a marker of systemic inflammation. So what we saw is that in this study here, where people drinking tisha noni juice, where they were elevated with those blood lipids, they brought them down to the normal range. Now, interestingly, those people that were already kind of normal range, those that were, and we see this in other studies too, those that are in normal range don't have any change. So this shows that the tisha noni juice is not acting like a drug. It's acting as what we call an adaptogen. And it's helping the body adapt and handle the stress that is causing this aberrant change in whatever's, for instance, cholesterol levels or triglycerides. And because of its, we knew about its anti-inflammatory activity, the C-reactive protein levels came down also. Again, the placebo had no effect. And here's the other study I was talking about, just with the lipid peroxidation DNA damage. You heard the story before. Tisha noni juice had a significant effect. The placebo did not. Okay, so what is up with noni? Well, these studies got us into looking really into the phytonutrient properties of noni. What is it about noni that is different from these other fruits? Let me use this to explain some things here. So fruits made up of 5 main things. The first is water. That's why you can make a fruit into a juice. There's a lot of water in there. There are carbohydrates. This is, there's sugars in there. That's why the orange juice is sweet. And there's also carbohydrates. Those are the sugar type. And then there's the fiber type, so that's where the pulp would come from. And then there are also vitamins. Many people are familiar with vitamin C, and minerals, such as potassium, which is usually the predominant mineral in fruits. And then there are things called phytonutrients, and they're not classically defined as vitamins, but they are beneficial for your health and important for your health as well. So iridoids are phytonutrients. Some other phytonutrients you might be familiar with are called flavonoids. Noni has flavonoids. The grapes and the blueberries do, and the oranges do, and the acai and the mangosteen and all these other fruits you hear about have those flavonoids, but very few have iridoids, and noni is one of those very few. And in fact, the other ones that have it in there, we include in a product called Max, and talk about some other day. But the iridoids are what make noni unique. And they are very powerful. And as you can tell from the studies that we just did with the smokers, that, as they say, the proof is in the pudding, right? The iridoids can deliver, or these other ones don't as much under these extreme conditions. So we've done analyses on many other fruits, and here's just a comparison. Noni has a bunch of iridoids, but you're not going to find them, like I said, in grape or acai or mangosteen, pear, apple, orange, and so forth, and kupasu, and many of these other ones you're going to look at. And now that's not to say that they're no good for you and they don't provide any health benefits, just like grandma used to say, make sure you eat your vegetables and, have fruit and vegetables before the dessert and so forth, there's a reason for that. But noni is unique and different. It contains these iridoids, and that's why you see these improved benefits and this stronger efficacy than these other fruits here. Now, when these people that colonized the Pacific Islands, they kind of headed, it's believed they headed from sort of the West Pacific and then out east, and took with them only the most important things in their canoes. Sometimes they had bigger canoes, right? And they had some smaller ones, but they had limited space. It's not like our big cargo ships today. They had limited space, and they took with them the things that were necessary to survive while they're sailing and looking for a new island, and when they got to the new island. And so they took plants with them, and the plants they took were called canoe plants. Noni was one of them. But they made sure they took noni with them, and we see from the phytonutrient analyses, as well as some of the genetic variability in noni plants, studies that have been done with noni plants, that the noni gets more uniform and of higher potency with iridoid content the further east you go. So it follows their colonization direction, as they colonize all these islands and spread across. So they were taking the best noni and selecting the best noni with them as they went. So imagine we're on island over here behind us, and we're gonna leave, and the local healer said, "Hey, take this noni, take some fruits and things from this noni over here. I've found that this is the strongest stuff growing. So take this with you as you sail to the new place." And so they're selecting the best stuff as they go. So when you came out to where French Polynesia is all the way out into the east, you have some of the highest content of iridoids. And we've been able to demonstrate that and publish that in, again, peer-reviewed journals that we publish our research in. Other scientists get to review it, critique it, make sure it's legitimate, and then recommend whether it should be published or not. So that's the peer review process. And this one we published in 2011 in a journal called Phytochemical Analysis. And here we show their couple different types of iridoids, the main iridoids, and then the total of the two together. And we found that the fruit from Tahiti had the highest content compared to these other locations. And that is we hear stories about, the soil and the air and so forth. I'm sure that contributes, but really what we think happened was is people selected the best stuff as they went along. And by the time you get all the way out to French Polynesia, we got the most potent noni out there. So this is so again, why noni? Because of iridoids. Why noni from Tahiti? Because of iridoids in the highest amounts and the strongest stuff. Now on iridoids, we jumped ahead here. I'm gonna go back. Iridoids have account for a lot of those effects that I showed you in those clinical trials. One of the studies, I didn't bring the slide here, didn't put this one up here. One of the studies we did is we isolated the iridoids from noni fruit. And then I wanted to make sure I tied this DNA protection effects that we saw in the heavy smokers to the iridoids directly. So in my profession and my education and so forth, one of the I mentioned pharmacology, and I also studied toxicology. And I've done a lot of work with looking at potential carcinogens, things that can damage DNA and cause cancer. That's what it is. One of the ways you screen for things is see what they do to DNA. The more you damage DNA, the more that could be an error in repair, and then you get cancer developed. So you were really interested in how things damage DNA. So I took some cells, one of these screening tests that we do, and I took these cells and I exposed them to a carcinogen. And I measured the amount of DNA damage that occurred, used that as my baseline. Then I repeated the test, but at first took these cells, exposed them to the iridoids, and I let them absorb these iridoids. And from noni that we isolated directly from the noni fruit. And then I exposed them to carcinogen again. And it reduced, in this test that I did, they reduced the DNA damage in this test I did by 99%, almost complete protection using these iridoids. So that's how we knew that this activity we were seeing was really coming from these iridoids. But there's another major benefit from noni besides this DNA protection, this anti-inflammation, these antioxidant effects, which we've also tested directly with the iridoids. There's something called advanced glycation end products. You can call them glycotoxins. So everybody knows too much sugar is bad, right? A lot of sugar. If you have diabetes and sugar levels are too high in the blood, that causes health problems. Well, those health problems are created by advanced glycation end products. That's what the sugar eventually becomes when it sits in the body a long time, and it slowly reacts with proteins in the body, and they form these advanced glycation end products. Now, you don't have to be diabetic to have a problem with these AGEs. That's an acronym for advanced glycation end products. As we get older, the AGE levels tend to increase. If you're a heavy smoker, then you'll have higher than normal than the typical population, especially your age. So there have been studies done in Japan and China and Europe, population-wide studies where they've measured these AGE levels or advanced glycation end product levels in the population, and we see the trend that they go up by age. And that's part of the aging process. And the result is you see these reduced performance of certain organs of the body and so forth that you see with aging. And you can actually, there's been a lot of studies they look at the tissues, do biopsies, and they see high AGE levels in a lot of these areas too. So something, if you can control that, it's good because it means your quality of life will be better longer. So we did this study in Japan with almost 4,000 Japanese. And in fact, we added more people on after we published this one. So that number now, I'm not even sure what we ended up with. It was many more thousands past this, but this is the published value, 3,913. And we measured AGE levels, and we had a way to measure that in the skin and use as a marker for the rest of the body. And then did a survey, ask them, okay, how much noni do you drink? What's your dose? What's your daily amount? And then we had a control group, the people that didn't get any either, didn't get any iridoids. And then we did the statistical analysis, and compared this large group of people. We found that as you increase your iridoid ingestion every day, or drink more noni, that your AGE levels tend to be lower for your age. And we saw that this reduction. So the more you drink, the lower your so to speak, biological age might be, in this case, the AGE related age, the AGEs, it means age, right? But advanced glycation end product age, it lowered it. So that actually has long-term effects in the body because those AGEs take a long time to clear out. They don't move very fast out of the body. They're not metabolized quickly, and they hang around and cause a lot of problems. And there's been work done by multiple researchers to show that the earlier you can intervene in controlling AGE levels, the better it is long-term health. So even small changes early on result in big improvements in health long-term. If you wait longer, it's not as strong, but it's kind of like the idea with a tree, when's the best time to plant a tree? It was 20 years ago, and the next best time is today, to plant a tree. So kind of think of it that way. Impact, do things to help lower those AGE levels or reduce the amount that is being produced in the body. Iridoids can help with that if you drink Tea Shinoni Original, and it has a breadth, quite a wide breadth of health benefits from that as well. So this is just a sampling of some of the research done and the benefits from Tea Shinoni Original. Hopefully get kind of an idea of what's involved and what has been involved to substantiate the benefits, but also to give you an idea of how wide the benefits can be. I used the term adaptogen earlier. I've done research on adaptogens. I think the definition for adaptogen is best fit by Noni. I've seen other adaptogens. You probably heard of adaptogenic herbs and so forth. Noni actually fits that definition that's been the official definition given years and years ago, better than any other adaptogen, to be honest with you. And so it provides things to the body that the body can use to protect itself. That's probably the simplest explanation. And iridoids are a big part of that, and they are unique, and you really only get them through Noni. So now, as I understand it, in the land of Oz, we got an introduction of these pouches that are being offered now. So I want you to know that the stuff in the pouch is the same stuff in the bottle, same stuff for a long, long time. And we test those pouches. We test every batch. We make sure they have the right iridoid content in there, just as in the bottle. And the benefit of this is the portability. So, if you and the shareability as well. So the bottle, a lot of people take the bottle with them, but the pouches travel better. And you can also share them with people. Say, hey, give this a try and talk to me later. That's a real convenience of the pouches there that way. And we've had different iterations of the pouches over the years. It was a popular product even many years ago. I guess more than a decade and a half ago, we had some pouches with Tea Shinoni. We were also, people were using it. I remember, I don't recommend this, but I'm going to tell you. So when I was younger then too, and I was working with some other researchers that were younger, and we used to have sort of some contests with the pouches that we had, the version of the pouch we had then. And we would kind of have races to see who could drink them the fastest. Sounds a little bravado, right? Sounds a little bit like a university stunt or something, but we would do that and drink them quickly. So I know you can drink a lot of these and you'll be okay because I'm still here, right? So, and but we enjoyed them a lot, and I know my kids did. But the portability and shareability is great, very, very high on these. Now, I mentioned about how Noni was combined with other substances to improve their efficacy and potency. I'm going to talk about some of these packs that are offered here and why they make sense to me, why I think they make sense. Now, granted, I didn't put these together. There's marketing and sales, would talk about how to offer these. But when I saw these, I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So first of all, the energy pack. I spent a lot of time talking about how Noni, improved energy and endurance and how people felt that. These other products, Elite has a lot of adaptogenic ingredients as well. And it's got some pretty powerful stuff in it as well to help the body, manage a lot of the changes we undergo. And the Rejuvenex is also there to provide energy. So you can see the synergy, how they would work together really, really well. It makes a lot of good sense in using these products together. And on the road pack, I think kind of explains itself too. You have the two together, and the portability and shareability is great because of the pouch, the stick packs that the Elite is offered in as well. Now this one, the Power Pouch Pack, the day and night drops are there to help with your weight management goals. Now, one thing I didn't talk about here in these studies was that currently we used to have a good market in the Russian Federation. Okay, now because of the situation over there right now, we don't have that market there, but we had done some work with the Institute of Nutrition there, and we actually had an officially approved claim there also for Tishanoni juice that it helps with weight management for obese people, believe it or not. If you go back to that thing I directed you to, that study that from 2018 that talks about the all the health benefits, all the clinical trials, you can read about it in there. But we saw that Tishanoni juice helped people lose weight and keep it off better than the control group who followed the same exercise and calorie restriction program. But when they added noni in, they lost the weight and they kept it off better and longer. And the reason why is that the noni was protecting lean body mass. So when you lose a lot of weight, you're going to lose fat, but you're also going to lose some muscle. And so it's a real fight to keep the muscle on as you're going through a weight loss program. And noni actually helped conserve that. And that also helps explain some of the
How are
benefits.
you? Good. Yeah, really well. I'm just listening to it.
Okay. So those packs make a lot of sense to me, how they work synergistically together. And so hopefully you'll find some people who'll be interested in this, and you'll be interested in it as well. So Lindsay, that's kind of I think a mouthful already, right? So I will pass it back to you.
Thank you, Brett. That was absolutely amazing. I could listen to you all day. The fact that you commented on the Power Punch pack, the Power Pouch pack, I didn't realize that was so hard. For the synergy, I put them together knowing that, but I didn't know how in depth that was. So I'm so glad that that works so well. We don't have very many questions in the chat. There's just so many people saying thank you, Brett. That was just fantastic. And so much information. I know everyone loves it here, the science behind the noni, and then understanding that it's exactly the same product that's in our beloved noni bottle, the same as the noni pouch. So thank you very, very much for sharing. What's Paula asking? Brett, if you think about noni from a sales point of view, which one benefit would you think is the most saleable? So from a sales point of view, Brett, what would you promote the most with noni?
This is a good question, and I think
It is a good question.
Varies for some people. I think, well, okay, I'm biased. So I'd probably say immune system is a big one. Okay, that was kind of one of the traditional ones that got a lot of interest early on in the early days, was immune system benefits. People want to stay healthy. Immune system is a big one. The toxicologist part of me really likes this DNA protection and what it does with all these chemicals in the environment to protect us long term, along with the anti-glycation. So if you looked at what I've written and published on, you'd probably say the glycation one is a major one. And it is, actually, it is. So I kind of like these really long-term benefits. When I was drinking Tishanoni juice in the early days, as a younger man, I didn't, I was healthy. I was in good shape. I didn't, I didn't have a story I could tell where I was, I had this pain or this health problem and I drank it and got better, but I knew the research and I used it because I knew of the long-term impacts it was going to have on me. And that's what kept me involved in the early days from a personal perspective. Now, of course, my wife had more dramatic stories, with recovery after the birth of our children and things like that. But that's kind of what kept it on. So I guess sellability, I think immune system's a big deal. People say, well, hey, I'm not sick right now. Well, you want to stay that way, right? So use it and stay healthy.
I agree. I am have been drinking noni since I've worked here, so it will be 14 years next week, I think. And my favorite thing that about noni for everyone is obviously for your health as an adult, but for my kids. I have always been a working mum, and I know for us mums, when your kids get sick, you have this moment of, oh, I need to go to work, and my kid, and I can't afford to take time off of work. At night time, if my little ones used to have like a cough or sniffles, I would give them a big dose of noni, and in the morning they would be completely fine. And it used to blow me away. And saying it to people, they'd be like, after just one glass, and I'd say, honestly, I'd give them one glass at night. And I've never been big on measurements for myself. For noni, I used to make sure it was the 60 ml, and now I'm just like glug glug. But I would just give them a big glass at nighttime. By the morning, it would be gone. So I can honestly say that I have so much thanks to noni for my kids' health, for their immune systems. They are, touch wood, never unwell. And I honestly put it down to noni. So I would say immune system definitely, and energy and sleep. I drink mine at nighttime and sleep like a baby. So it helps with sleep too, Brett. Hey. One other question. Now, this is a tricky question because we cannot, as everyone knows, this is not something we can touch on at all, but so many people have asked it, and I just want to ask you your suggestion, Brett, not as a doctor's suggestion, but just your suggestion with dialysis. This is something that I used to get asked over the phone quite a lot when people would call. And we would always just say, speak to the doctor.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one that should be asked for noni or for anything else.
Yeah.
So people that are on dialysis have restrictions, on their diet. Their kidneys are not working properly, they're not filtering, so forth. So the nephrologist or doctor, whoever's attending this person, will sometimes give them dietary restrictions. So you need to understand that noni is a fruit juice. It has potassium in there. It's not a significant source. It's not enough that we could label it on the bottle, more than 2% of the daily value or anything like that. It's not that, but when they're watching that, you need to ask the doctor, what do I need to do about fruit juices or fruits and vegetables? Not just fruit juices, but fruits and vegetables, because vegetables, so your lettuce and your carrots and your broccoli and your apples and oranges and the noni, they're all going to be, the main mineral in them is going to be potassium. And because that's what they pull out of the ground. That's what plants do, is pull it out of the ground more preferentially than the rest of the minerals in the ground. You need the other ones too, it'll grow, but that's what's going to be in the part you eat in the highest amount. So it's not a screaming high amount, but if they've got you on restrictions, you need to ask them. Now, mind you that, a 1 ounce, 30 ml or 60 ml serving is only going to be, 40 to 80 milligrams, depending on the amount. 30 mils about 40, 60 about 80 milligrams. And that 30 mils. That's a lot. Was it 4,000 plus milligrams per day? Potassium is the daily value, so it's really quite a bit less than what you usually need. But just ask them and ask, how do fruits and vegetables fit into my diet, and then work your noni in with that as well, the same way. If they say, well, keep it down a little bit, and don't go past this many grams per day of fruits or vegetables, then, just substitute it in as you can. But yeah, talk to them. It's just so you can keep track of that mineral intake, so they know that you're managing that well.
Yeah,
you know,
that makes complete sense.
the noni, I'm not making a claim here, but in other studies that we've done with kidneys, you know, noni seems to help with a lot, you know, experimental studies with, you know, protecting kidneys. And so it might be beneficial, but just you got to watch the mineral content though. So that's kind of a long explanation. It's a food issue is what it is. It's not a noni issue. It's just a fruit and vegetable issue.
Thank you, Brett. That's fantastic. That is all we have time for today, guys. What a brilliant call. Thank you again, Brett. We really appreciate having you here with us and sharing all your amazing knowledge. And we will definitely get you back again soon.